Hey there, I'm back, and here it is. I am your Griot Sensei Al Bob, and welcome to our channel, Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Al Bob. And tonight we're going to have a guided meditation, and I'm just thinking where to take you. We're going to do the usual intro into the meditation of deep breath, visualization, going to Akashic Record, traveling through one of the 9 doors. The open door goes to your superconscious mind, the sanctuary of your own choosing. And but we're going to. I've been thinking. I have. It's been a year since I started Dreamy Dreamland, and I have more than 600 shows on the channel. And on my playlist, I probably have more than 200 special YouTubes from channels like, Gracefully, Truth Media, Truthful Media, Jimmy Dore, Chris Hedges, David Icke, Gordon Maxwell, a number of people who have a very interesting perspective. Now, I put this show together because I realized YouTube was a great asset and that we are at a crossroads, and that I thought I would bring forth that crossroad. But first and foremost, this is a channel of entertainment, of self-awareness, and it is of a, I don't want to say sophisticated or grown up or any of that. There's nothing inappropriate, but if you were a person who had a belief structure, and that belief structure would be tested or challenged by anything I say, I would suggest, depending on your fragility, you shouldn't watch this. Children may not be able to watch this. Now some children could. I was telling a story of being at the library, and mother, brother, sister, young boy. The young boy was an old soul. I mean, he was 7 years old, and he was reading history books, instead of Dick and Jane. So, if you're a 7-year-old who's mature like that, probably this would be fine for you. But if you're anybody who has a fragile worldview, who I don't want to, I don't really deal with fear. There's nothing really that I talk about that's fearful. There's nothing that I'm not a tribalist, meaning I don't believe in one way or the other. I don't believe in anything. The only thing I have is faith in love's co-creation. I only believe in love. Love is the only thing that exists. And the commodity, if there is such a thing, of love is empathy. Love is all about being able to put yourself in the other person's shoes. Love is all about wanting, what makes you happy is when you see other people happy. Love is about the concept of the we in me, that we're all our relations. There is no such thing as the other, the enemy. During World War One, as the years went by, they would have these Christmas, when they started at you for a few days. And the Germans and the French and the English and the Americans would go out into the no man's land and share their food and their wine and their booze and dance and talk and be nice to each other. And by about the third year, they wouldn't come out. They didn't want to go back to war. And their own generals had to shell them to go back to start fighting. Had to have people behind them with a gun saying, "You start shooting up your enemy or we're going to kill you." So that isn't love. That's fear. So we're going to do a live guided meditation, and we're going to take you into love's co-creation. And we're going to show you all our relations, and that is warm and cold-blooded, that is feathered and scaled and skinned, and that's also carbon and silicate. We are all carbon. I'm a carbon-based element. When people go, "Oh, you can't take the mark of the beast, 666." Well, we already are that. What is carbon? 6 electrons, 6 neutrons, 6 protons, 666, right? We already are the 666. Now, the silicate, the semiconductor, the artificial intelligence is, made out of sand, crystal. And yet, we are coming to a cross point where the semiconductor is going to become self-aware. And the carbon has to become not just self-aware, but conscious of the presence of their free will of love's co-creation. Otherwise, we're just a mud puppet, And, we're a bag of water, So, my discipline, I am a shamanic, psychosocial, cultural, forensic, anthropologic alchemist, So, what is that? That's somebody who's had a lot of teachers, That's somebody who's, been schooled for a very long time. So shamanism, what is shamanism? Shamanism is the discipline of understanding the ability to let go of any preconceived notion and that you balance yourself within the dynamic of nature. That's a shaman. There are other things, but that generally is it, right? Psychosocial, cultural, forensic, anthropologic. To understand someone's psychology, why they do things, what are their motivations. You got to understand psychosocial, the social status and stratus, where they are in the ladder of the social structure. To understand that, you have to psychosocial, cultural, like where grandma came from, how you celebrated holidays, what you used to eat. Forensic, you take it apart, you pull the threads apart, you see the construction of the cloth of the persona. Psychosocial, cultural, forensic, anthropologic. What are the anthropologist is supposed to be able to take off their cultural prejudice and try to wear the grass skirt of the people they're being with, being open-minded. An alchemist, what is the alchemist? The person who's making gold from base metals. And that's, what's a base metal? Like lead. Today, lead is more expensive than gold. So it wouldn't make sense monetarily, anyway, to try and do that. But what the alchemist truly is doing, the base metal is, my body is not who I am. My mind isn't who I am. The closest thing to who I am is my heart, because my heart is the CPU of my consciousness, right? Not my brain. My brain is simply a Rolodex, the metal box that my squirrel, my my mind um, runs around it, and it just goes through a myriad of, oh, I got to do this, got to do that. Why that? I need, I want, I have. Oh, I got to pay my bills. I got to make some money. I got to, no, that's not who you are, right? It's just your Rolodex. And alchemy changes the base metal, and that's our avatar. This right here, my body, very sophisticated, but it's simply a bag of water. And the things that manifest my moving around are the base metals. They conduct electricity, right? And I am an electrochemical device. I'm a robot, I'm a biological robot, run by my circuitry and my nerves and my lymphatic system and all the endocrine systems and things of that nature on the, micro, macro level. On the micro level, we get down to our cells, and it's the DNA, right? And the gold that alchemy makes is the thread that comes out of my higher chakras and goes up to my ascended self, right? And that's the gold the alchemist is trying to do, is reach that ascended self, right? So tonight we are going to go into state, illuminate ourselves with the photonic light, bring it into our imaginary mirror, project that light into our subconscious mind, which is our sanctuary, not our sanctuary, it's our Akashic record, our library of our experience. You have to realize that we are a immortal consciousness living in a very limited life. And so that's why reincarnation kind of makes sense. You go through this life somewhere between 60 and 100 years, and then you die, and then you're born again, and you go through another life. And the way the permutation works is whatever you experience in here will kind of manifest what you're going to see in your last life. And when we go into our Akashic record, I'm going to show all of your past lives, your present life, and I can show you your future, but the future has a lot more variables. You can get a generality of where you're going, but you can't really see what's exactly going to happen. Now, what is exactly going to happen is going to be what exactly is going to happen, because the Big Bang was just that. It wasn't like bang and then all of this matter was created by the explosion and it went that away. No, and time isn't linear. It's in the great book. It says that all things are, alpha and omega, beginning and the end. It's all at the same time. We don't live in a linear world. It's all now. But for our consciousness to get an appreciation of what we're doing here, we kind of have to experience it in a limited, linear kind of way. So that's what it is. And it started, you read the good book, and in the beginning, all things were black. And Lucifer was the number one angel. He was in charge of heaven, right? And love's co-creation, which is God. I don't like to use the word God or, Lord, because Lord in Sumerian means Baal, and Baal means Satan, and the same goes with God. God in Sumerian, translated into a Hebrewic part of that, God is demon, right? So, and that's why in the Old Testament, the Torah, God was kind of a pissed off dude, Whereas in true reality, all things are love's co-creation. The only thing that exists is love. All else is an illusion. And it's an illusion from Lucifer getting pissed off with love's co-creation. Love's co-creation put all of this into motion, and it was going on forever. And love's co-creation kind of took a vacation. It wasn't. Oh, it wasn't running the day to day. Lucifer was. So, love's co-creation said, I'm kind of bored. I want something to co-create with. Now Lucifer is running everything by a hegemony, by a book, by a textbook, basically, by a rule book. And that's why 18th and 19th century scientists, or what called themselves scientists, kind of looked at our world as a clock, as a machine. It seemed to work like a machine, right? And which was far different from the earlier centuries of, from, the beginning of AD till today. All those different centuries, the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, they were just a continuation of what, the Roman Empire then became the Holy Roman Empire. And they came from way back 16,000 years ago, the Sumerians, the Mesopotamians, the Babylonians, the Egyptians, the Greeks, the Persians. These were all empires that rose and fell. And they were basically the same guy. But there were so many mysteries, there were so many things left behind from the old ones that aren't here anymore, just their relics. And the wars we have are often fought on their front doorstep. Like a good example is Syria and Iraq, both places that had tremendous artifacts left strewn all over their real estate. And, we're basically ignored and misinterpreted by quote unquote scholastics. Now, scholars like myself, we look at things in a different way, and we are usually given the short shift. And usually, what we see through our observations of perspective and esoteric and occult observations aren't really appreciated until we're way gone dead, right? And a lot of the people who represent that are lost to the seeds of time. So, good representation of a Greek scholastic would be Thucydides, the alleged daddy of written history, the guys who came from him, Plato and Sophocles and folks of that nature. They didn't really write much down because they were griots. They told the story, right? And they passed that shamanic story down to the listener, right? Who usually became the king. Alexander's, teacher was Sophocles. So, he learned all of those disciplines that Sock was having. And Sock did it because he knew that the young men that he was teaching would rule the world one day. And we have lost that motif because, yes, those empires had an element of power and wealth, right? But they also had a sense of antiquity and that they were going to leave something behind. Now, all we're going to leave behind is, oceans full of plastic and, landfills. So, okay, back to Eden. Love is like a bird of gold, if anything at all. Yeah, the Atlanteans, and they aren't even the old ones. They're just the newest old. They became. But And those guys are just, represent, you kind of look at, so where do we really come from? Well, the more and more you look at Homo sapiens sapien and you put it, it's not like Darwin said. That was like, please. It doesn't even make sense. It can't be, you know, put together. It wasn't evolution. Certain things evolved, yes, but not everything. And there are these big jumps, leaps. And to go from the pre hominins into the hominins and the guys who were, the cavemen, etc., et al., and then into us, not really. We're like two different things. And in a lot of ways, the cavemen were more superior than we were. You know, they didn't have the kind of violence we have. We were bred for violence. And that's what we really were. We are someone's lab experiments. There's these guys called the Anunnaki who showed up here, and they're either dimensional characters or extraterrestrials or of something of that nature. But there used to be a TV show I really liked. J.J. Abrams did a show called Fringe. And one of the, and it was fringe science. And what was that? It was things on the edge. And when your eyes start to, go strange, and I have, diabetic eyes, so I have a lot of things wrong with them. So they aren't what they used to be, right? So I can't see as well, but I see other things better. Right over here in my peripheral vision, there is this kind of energetic edge. If I turn my head and look, you can't see it, but I keep my looking at you, but over here it is. It's like another dimension. And these dimensions are right there with us. That's what ghosts are. That's what, all of these things, they are creatures that we kind of see. They're on the other side, they're in another dimension because of certain, weather, planetary, energetic, you name it, um, situations. It kind of jellos the wall between these things, and we can kind of see it. Now, our senses are so limited. Within inside our six senses, we only see 0.095% of what's around us. The other 99.9% we can't even see. Dogs, have better senses than we do. Yet we have this, mind, frontal lobes, and cerebral cortex that kind of fills in the difference. And it kind of, kids us into thinking that what we're seeing is really real. And that's one of the problems with our material world is that it's not really real. It's an illusion. So, Eden, I thought you were going to get more people than just you. So, what do you think? You're a, scholar. All the time. I mean, I'm walking in many different dimensions all the freaking time, and that's what a shaman does. That's part of the, my teacher. I had three, more than that, but basically three elders, grandfathers. I'm just your, griot sensei. I have not become a grandfather yet, so, but I'm working on it. I got dark hair and I got a white beard. So when this turns all white and it gets really long, well, I'll be getting towards being a grandfather. But right now, I'm just your griot sensei Al Bob. And so, yes, so in New Mexico, I was Grandfather Davis. He was one of the Hopi elders of, you know, keepers of the Elegy of the White Buffalo. I grandfather David of the Iroquois Nation in '91. I, stayed with him and studied and learned from him. And then there was when I was in Australia, there was an elder, um, and he too was David. So all three of my um, shamanic teachers were they were they were all grandfather David, right? And they constantly put me, disciplined me in ceremony, which the ceremony would bring forth. They would always say, "So you have a vision?" When we'd sweat in New Mexico, do you have a vision? When we sweated in upstate New York, do you have a vision? And what was interesting, I actually sweated with grandfather David in the Nookenbah because big desert, and it's the English wasted the land. The English in Australia, they're I feel sorry for them. They just are, what's the right word? Stupid, and they think, guys, just because they have money, they can kill people, you know, they seemingly can't be touched, like the Murdochs, and they're in Australia, there are men who own everything. Murdoch owned everything media. A guy named Ansett owned everything transportation. And there were about six other, and they went all the way back, to when they showed up. And, they called a Australia a prison, um, country. The English sent folks, criminals there. But it wasn't your average pickpocket or that because, man, it's like, sending a pickpocket to Mars, It cost a lot of money to go from England to Australia, you know? So I didn't just send anybody. They sent, like a good example was the Queen of England, um, Victoria. Um, was that the one? Yeah, I think so. 19th century. Her cousin was the surgeon, the doctor of the court, but he was also Jack the Ripper. So as long as he, took out prostitutes and people that no one cared about, not a problem. But when he started going at cutting up, the thrifty merchant class, well, they had to get rid of him. Well, he was, a royal blood, so they couldn't just off him or put him on jail. So they just stuck him on a boat and sent him to Australia. And those families, the Murdochs, the Ansetts, and the other, there's this club in Sydney and Melbourne that is really totally off the wall. And the other interesting thing about Australia was it is very much I don't know what it is like now because I was there 77 to 80. They still had a great deal of architecture that was the Gilded Age. And there were a number of these buildings that, they were like kind of the really super rich, powerful, wealthy. That was their clubs, etc. And wherever I go, I'm, high class electrician. I can fix anything. And there was in Melbourne one of these Gilded Edged buildings that had, elevators and lights and heating and cooling that were from, the 1840s. They were electric devices before electricity. And they were more or less, scalar / Tesla kind of technology before he was even born. And this one lifting, like elevator, but it didn't have cables or anything. It was like anti-gravity. And, you know, I worked for this electrical engineering firm as comic relief, basically. And it was a friend of mine. And we landed there, and Pan Am lost us everything, and we had no money, and I needed a job. And my friend took me to this guy who was his buddy, who had a big electrical engineering firm, right? One of the big ones. And they did, transmission lines and dams, and they worked up there in Alice Springs, and the Wallam Missile Range, and air. There are a few other sites up there in the Northern Territories that make Area 51 look like, forget about it, nothing, right? Because it's so out in the middle of nowhere, and that's the best way to put that kind of thing. Freaking Area 51 is just hop, skip, and a jump to Las Vegas and LA and this and that. And this place is like, there's a billion miles where there's no one knows you're there. So anyway, I worked for that company, right? And I went to work there, and I hit it off with the owner. And I'd wear Hawaiian shirts and shorts and flip flops and big floppy hats, and have an umbrella like Mary Poppins, because in the 40s and 50s, the English and the Americans detonated atomic bombs and hydrogen bombs in the troposphere and blew gigantic holes in the ozone layer. I mean, the thing that really tore the ozone up like a grater of cheese wasn't hairspray, wasn't CFCs. Is that we freaking detonated hydrogen bombs in it, right? And so so I could feel that. I'm sensitive to electromagnetics, and the sun is one big gigantic heat lamp. So I would, cover myself up, and people used to laugh at me, go, "What are you talking about?" I'd be, wore sleeves, and like I said, I have an umbrella and big floppy hats, and now everyone does that there, but I did that in 1977 and lathered myself up in highest, sunblock I could find. And anyway, so I went in, and I went to Woolworths to find this stuff, to buy it on the cheap, and they had these great handbags that were made in China, that were these like little plastic, I don't know, pearls or whatever, and they made images of like, koala bears and kangaroos and Sydney, the opera, and and they were like $1 a piece, and they were gigantic granny bags. And I use them as all these engineers I work with had briefcases, and I'd walk in with this thing, a big plastic ring and big granny bag, and picture of a koala bear on it, very colorful, and I'm wearing a Hawaiian shirt and mirrored sunglasses, a big hat and an umbrella. They were like, I kind of drove them nuts. But my boss really liked me because, hey, I know what I was doing. I was better at it in a lot of ways because I was intuitive rather than, being anal attentive by getting it, so I could get the job done right first time, every time. And so I was the field guy. I was, those guys were in the office and I was out in the field. And then as I was out in the field, again, we'd work for the government or large corporations, and it would be the same kind of guys that were back in his office with black pants, white shirt, little black tie, and their slide rule, on their belt. I just, I'm a big fan of composition books. I would just kind of do it, my math in a composition book, and take notes and stuff. And anyway, but I would drive the clients nuts. And so after I worked there for a while, maybe a month or two, and he paid me very well. So good. We were no longer an economic scarcity land, my wife and I. And then I started to build nightclubs and theaters, and I worked for the Avant-Garde Theatre of Australia, which was, basically run by the government because they wanted to seem cultured and cosmopolitan. And Melbourne was the theater town, and Sydney was the movie town. Anyway, so I had a very different, and my friend was an artist, so I had a very, and we were staying at his house, and his girlfriend and my wife and his girlfriend were born on the friggin' same day, but on different sides of the earth. And they were at the same height. Don was a little shorter, but same size, same build, same straight kind of, brownish red hair, green eyes. They had the Irish, blood in them, and they were both artists. Now Donna really was, and she was, practicing pretty famous photographer, and Leslie had it in her, but in Australia, they, if you were an artist, they made fun of you. So, anyway, so my life was pretty good. So my boss said to me, "Okay, listen, you're really good at what you do. I really appreciate you, but you don't have to come in every day. You don't have to. I'm still going to pay you what I pay you, but you don't have to come in every day. I had this flash because you so piss and freak all these engineer types out. I am going to make you my punch list guy." And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Yeah, because I do these big jobs. And yes, we get millions of dollars when we start. We get millions of dollars in the middle. But I have the hardest time getting that last check because they have this punch list and they always try to string it out and try to, make me just walk away. But if I send you, you will so annoy them that they will give me the check just to get rid of you." And so that's what I did. So, in those 3 years that I was there, I probably went to, after I stopped working there every day, I probably went as the punch list guy 7 times. And he still was paying me what he paid me when I was there every day. And when I would go to and do the punch list thing and it really get him to give the check, he'd give me a nice bonus. So that was, plus I had all these other jobs. So I was a happy guy. I was doing good. And then we traveled around. So I traveled around a lot and saw a lot of different things. And I saw how the corporate world was raping Australia. And they had been doing it for 125 years. And England was just an extension of the Roman Empire within the construct of being a plutocratic, fascist corporate state. And that's what America is, right? We always have been since Chris got here. Let's see. Greetings back to Eden. Yep. Go to the abandoned places that have the dark history. Okay, so there's only 2 of you. I'm trying to, go call up some people, get a few more here. Let's see. We've been here a half an hour. About 10 minutes, we'll go to the guided meditation. I'm just kind of filling in the peripheral of where we're going to go. And where we're going tonight in the guided meditation is exactly what Dragon says. Go to the abandoned places that have the dark history. Yeah? You can feel the energies if you are hypersensitive, right? And when I take you guys into state, that's where you are. You're in a hypersensitive state, right? Now I'm kind of here all the time, but I've learned how to let go of the ego, the fear, the angst, the anxiety, all of that. I kind of just let it go. And then you don't have to be ruled by those dark energies. You can just observe them. You don't have to judge them, right? And judgment is the biggest problem we ugly bags of water have. We get stuck in judgment. And what is judgment? What is belief? All it is an opinion. Everyone has an opinion like they have an anal port. And their opinion is as stinky as their anal port. Now, if you serve love's co-creation, well, that's not an opinion, If you're there to serve love's co-creation by making others happy because it makes you happy, that's not a belief. That's faith, right? So that's what we're going to go look at tonight. We're going to go look at those dark spots, and we're going to look at them with faith, with love's co-creation. So we will be Toto pulling back the curtain from The Wizard of Oz, just to see that it's an old, scared man, right? And that, we expose him, but we won't hurt him. We won't judge him or her, you know? We will be empathetic, right? Because if we're empathetic to the hidden hand, to the powers that shouldn't be, the sock puppets. And when I say empathetic, it's like to understand why they did that, not to give them a pass to let them keep doing it. No, but to understand so they can let go themselves, right? That's what our little guided meditation this evening is going to be, right? So, okay, 40 minutes. There's two of you, but two really good ones, Eden and Dragon. So, okay, here we go. Ready? You guys get comfy. Put yourself in a place where you're safe and secure. And we're going to start breathing in that 20% through your nose and 30% out of your mouth. And we breathe the 20% in because to do that, you have to be conscious. You have to be aware. You have to be awake, right? And when you breathe out the 30%, you're expelling way more toxins than any other elimination that your body does. More than feces, more than urine, more than sweat, breath. You every day you're kicking out, something close to 40, 50,000 cubic feet of breath every day. So you're expelling a lot, and most of your body, your skin is gas permeated, can go in and out. And all our cellular membranes on the inside are basically gas permeable. And a good deal of all of the chemical, electrical things that go on in our body are gas oriented. So we're just a kind of a gas bag. And, so that's when you go, oh, that energy was sound and all the gas going out, right? And so you were creating a powerful mechanism, right? So a metaphor per se. So I'm going to count from 1 to 3, and as I do, you're going to go deeper and deeper and deeper into a conscious state of relaxation. Breathe in that 20% and out that 30%. And 1, you're going into a deep conscious state of relaxation. Your conscious mind, the little squirrel in your head, is being forced to shut up. Stop running around that squirrel cage and focus on your breath. 20% in and 30% out. And 1, you're going into a deep, deep, deep state of conscious relaxation. Your mind is totally focused on your breath, and your body is totally relaxing. Energetically, you are balancing all of yourself. You're either sitting in a chair, lying down, but you're in a safe position. So when your body goes into automatic pilot and your consciousness leaves your body through going into state, you'll be fine. You'll be safe. You'll be secure. All I have to do will be snap my fingers 3 times and you'll be right back into your body. But for now, you're going deeper and deeper and deeper into the state of conscious relaxation. Your conscious free will is ascending, right? And as you breathe in that 20%, in that ascension, your chakras are rising. And it's like an antenna. And what you're receiving is the prana from Father Sky. And it's coming in when you're breathing in. You're breathing in that prana because you raise that antenna. You have created the flux of the photonic energy of the prana to be able to balance and go into your lungs, right? Because when you breathe out at 30%, what you're doing is all the little cilia in your lungs are uncovering. And that is what the prana resonates with, those little cilia in the alveoli of your lungs. Breathing in and out, and you're cleansing your lungs, breathing in the prana, and then breathing out the toxins. And you're lifting your diaphragm up, enabling your lungs to increase in capacity. And as you breathe in the prana, those little cilia are connected to all, not just your nervous system, but to your lymphatic system, to every other um, craniosacral system of your body. You have all of these other sensory information, and it's not just electrical, but it's also carried by pressures. Your blood pressure, your lymphatic pressure, and you got another 8 of these pressurized information systems, and they're carrying all kinds of information, and not just biological from your bag of water, but that's where your empathy comes from. That's where your intuition comes from. That's where, no one is psychic, but we all, because we are more than this bag of water, we are a multidimensional creature. So we have all these other sensory mechanisms within our avatar that actually, do things, but because we have deluded ourselves to exist in this illusion of or what is called reality, we tend to go towards that than what is really there. We have a hard time with embracing love. People can't even hug. People can't even say I love you. I say it all the time. I hug people all the time because it's a strong healing tool. And when I do that, I break through people's akashic barrier, right? And I go right into their field. And that's what I do with my adept cadre, is that through this YouTube channel, I am, and that's why I spend the time to shamanically first tune myself up, and then spend 20 minutes kind of telling a story, a griot story, that the impatient person would go, "What's he talking about?" No, I kind of just go right in there, and start fooling around on the inside, to break down the barriers that you have so I can get you to co-create with love. I serve love's co-creation to in every day and every way take the piece of the earth and make it stronger. Why don't you get a job? Well, that is my job. And I had all these other jobs in the material world, and yeah, they were okay. But this one is a job that I was sent here to do, 68 years ago, 69 years ago, and so I'm now doing it full force because, That's why I got really sick. That's why I got diabetes and neuropathy and aplastic anemia and charcoal legs and, you know, diabetic eyes. And I have all these other things going on in me. And yet, my endocrinologist says I'm the healthiest dead guy he knows because I'm not going to die until I've accomplished what I've come here to do. And that's why I can live really comfortably like a millionaire on $300 a month, you know? And I have no fear, you know? I just go through life at this time. I mean, through my whole life I did, but, I took little, you know, went someplace, what do they call that when you take a side turn, go down a blind alley, I did that and it was okay because I learned stuff, My 3 rules: doctor, do no harm. Don't get involved unless you can A, get the innocent out of harm's way and have a positive exit strategy. And 3, do not get involved unless you're going to learn something. So that's pretty much everything in my life. Even, when I was a super hedonist for 10 years working for the corporate desperate lawyers, I enjoyed every chunk of that chocolate cake. But I gained 260 pounds. It's amazing I didn't destroy every joint in my body, especially my knees. I did. My ankles, my charcoal legs kind of come from that. But my knees and my hips, I spent 50 years rolling around on the floor as an electrician, going up and down ladders. One of the reasons my ankles are I used to stand on top of large A-frame ladders, like 40 feet up in the air. When I worked in theaters, they have these ladders that are A-frame, and then they have another ladder that goes straight up from that. So you're like 40, 50 feet up in the air, adjusting instruments on a grid, above the stage floor. If you didn't have, a fly bar, and a lot of stages didn't have fly bars, you had to, go way up there. And in a lot of ways, the only way to truly focus an instrument is to have it where it was going to be and then move it around and get it just right. If you wanted to get the effect you wanted, it's one thing to hang instruments and circuit them on a movable fly, right? Or to go up in the grid. But if you want that light to focus on that spot right there, you got to be able to move it around where it's going to be. So, 50 years of doing that really kind of burnt out my body. Yet, then 10 years of being 260 pounds heavier, and I was already heavy. I was already 240 pounds, and then I added another 260 on top of that, and that's why I'm here doing this for you guys. Dragon, that's why I'm here, And you have come so far, and you have become, such a loving individual, And I see you every day going through your life, and you have these challenges, and the things that made you mad before still are there, but you're overcoming them, and that's following a great path, And you, as you grow older, you are now stepping into that place of being the example for others. And don't take it like, oh, no, just be yourself as the example. I don't view myself anything more than just, your Sensei Al Bob, And, I've had some really amazing teachers, so that gives me humility. When I compare myself or, can't even to my teachers, my senseis, my grandfathers, my masters, you know, and then all the group of, you know, um, people who are like me now, who were senseis, and we're just living their life, leading by example. Yep, no ego here. Now we got them in us, we just have to have a egoless ego, right? And that's what it's about. That's what Dreamy Dreamland is about. That's what I do these things as often as I can, because that's the lesson I want to bring forth to the adept cadre, to let things go. Don't let yourself, what you really are here for is love's co-creation. And if you're here, conscious, awake, aware of that, yep. Yeah, I don't worry about farting or burping or any of that stuff. And I came from a family of, man, my mom, which she sneezed, she could blow the house down. She really could. And my sister farts and burps, and I love her because she farts and burps like, like something out of The Simpsons. And she doesn't say excuse me or anything. It's like it didn't happen. I mean, everyone's like looking around. It's like, what the, Anyway, so I come up from a long. My dad used to crap his pants. We were in a Walmart's once, and he was wearing, Bermuda shorts, and he crapped in his pants, and the brown river was going down his leg, and he was leaving a stretch, halfway across. I was rolling around in one of the go-karts, and the manager came over and was like, and they, my dad's picture was in a number of Walmarts. Like, don't let this man in, because I said, Dad, why don't we get some Depends? I'll wear them. I don't need those things. And he would, crap in the house, and I had to find a cleaning lady who was she loved, she was scatological. She was in seventh heaven cleaning up my father's diarrhea around the house, and she was good at it. And that's what human beings are. You can't pretend, that we're not what we are. There's Sunray, Dragon, Sunray. Yep. So we're easing into a guided meditation, Sunray, and where we're going is we're going to kind of go into the dark places, right? And and it kind of comes from the Bible. And in the beginning, all things were dark, meaning what is black within the construct of physics? Black is the presence of every frequency of light, right? So tonight's little guided meditation is we're going to go look at things that are opposite. It's just like, no child left behind means every child is going to be left behind. War on drugs, meaning the drugs are going to be on war on you. LBJ's Great Society, meaning we're going to frack this place up as much as we can, And so I'm going to show you that duality. And the duality is the real problem of the human experience, of the illusion, right? And the only thing that isn't dualistic is love. Love is the only thing there is, And that's what we're going to go look at. So we started out, everyone get comfy, sit down, lie down, put yourself in a place where your avatar won't, harm itself when it goes on automatic pilot. And I have been putting out the shamanic energy of everyone breathing in that 20%, absorbing in that prana, and your diaphragm lifting and your lungs expanding and the cilia vibrating to the prana, which is connecting. That's like the prana. The cilia and your aeoli are like the lightning rod of the lightning rod system, that goes down to your chi and brings that energy, that photonic light, down into Mother Earth and makes that connection, right? So see it clearly. And I'm going to count from 1 to 3, and as I do, you're going to go deeper and deeper and deeper into a state of conscious relaxation. And 1, your conscious mind, that little squirrel up there that has a laundry list. Oh, I got to pay my bills, got to do this, got to do that. It's like shutting up. It's no longer running around in the cage of your mind, the Rolodex up there. It's slowed down. It's just kind of, and it's going to sleep. The squirrel's going to sleep, you know. So, and as you breathe in, the prana goes into the cilia, and then it goes into the aorta, and the blood comes from your heart, and it's wholly rich in iron. It's all red, and it's going through that, and it's picking up the prana from your breath, and it's turning that blood, which is highly energetic, highly electric conductive. It's got all this iron in it. But as you breathe in the prana, instead of just taking, let's say, Hertzian frequencies of XY coordination, of that limited avatar experience, it's bringing in the scalar energetic of the photonic light. Now, this is incandescent light. See how it throws a shadow? That's what incandescent light. If that lamp over there was photonic, there wouldn't be any shadows. And it's a sunny day, and it's one of those like yesterday. Monday was an amazingly clear blue sky, unbelievably beautiful day because we had like a whole week and a half of really heavy rain. So it was clearing all that crap in the sky out. And when the sun rose that Monday morning, it was gorgeous, right? So I was out there early, 7 a.m., and I was in a parking lot, and the sun was coming down, and the light was, there were no real shadows. It was a big open space, so the light was coming from every different angle. There were no shadows. That was photonic light. That's as close as you get on this planet. Now, they have learned to create photonic light artificially, right? And I've seen that in laboratories, and I've seen it in underground facilities, these big domes. And I've, been brought down into a couple of them because, I was working for a high voltage contractor, and they, had a problem down there, and that's, tuning high voltage scalar transformers is like was anyway, back in the day, one of my prodigy skills. And I haven't done it, God. I haven't played around with any of that stuff since 1987. That was the last time I really did any of that. So, I've been 3 times in a facility like that. And, I have the experience. I have they know who I am. I don't have any kind of clearance. I got like Santa Claus clearance. When I worked at Los Alamos, I remember showing up there, and I had to go, I took a bus from Albuquerque to there. And, it's a government, unmarked vehicle, big bus. And I went there, and it's like me and 3 guys were only guys on this bus. It was big, like Greyhound bus, but it wasn't a Greyhound bus. We went on to one of those sites, and the windows, the first time I ever saw one of those electrically fogged up windows was that place. When we left Albuquerque, it's clear as glass, and we got closer and closer. And once we kind of went past some, point, the windows started to fog up, turn gray, and you couldn't see through them. And then they were light could come through, but you couldn't see what was on the other side of the glass. And when we got to this facility, we pulled up in front of this big hangar. We kind of came off that, and walked into this building, and then we kind of went off to the side and went into like a annex, and we got our clearances, and they give us these little books to read to know what the protocols were, blah blah blah. And we were assigned billets and given things so we could get food and stuff like that. And so all these guys, I mean, they were so, I was like looking like this. I had my little bag of tools, and they were had briefcases and wore suits and had crew cuts, and they got the all-in pass, laminated with their picture and all these like little gizmo things that were on it. And me, he gave me a piece of cardboard with a shoelace on it, and he used a magic marker, really smelly magic marker, to put my name and this, and he kind of drew a stick figure of me. It was like, and then he stuck these stickers that were, how they have, one of those little squarey things that have all this weirdness in it, and you put it up into a scanner. This is 1973, and he had those, and he stuck it on the cardboard. He said, "Don't lose this. If it's a piece of cardboard with a shoelace around it and shit written on it with a magic marker, and these they look like Disney stickers." And he goes, "This is very important. Don't lose this. You can get in trouble if you don't have this where you'll be working." And I said, "Really? Well, why did I get ones like those guys?" And he said, "Well, you're not them." And I got a lot of that when I worked in places. You're not them. So. And that's you guys. You're not them. And I tell you this little story because as we go deeper and deeper into this guided meditation tonight, you're going to see a lot of guys in suits with military haircuts, and they have the laminated pass in their photo and such, and you're going to have the piece of cardboard with the shoelace around it, and you're not them. But you have an all-in pass to the show. Right? They don't have a choice. You do. You have an ascending free will. They do not. And that's why I tell you these stories. And you should have been breathing 20% in and 30% out the whole time I'm telling you the story. But hey there, Jane. So just keep breathing. And I'm counting from 1 to 3. And as I do, you're going deeper and deeper and deeper into a state of conscious relaxation. Your squirrel is totally asleep. You are seeing the photonic light come into your lungs. You see your blood pumping through your arteries and veins and capillaries. Instead of going blub, 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 it's swirling, It's going clockwise against the walls of your arteries, veins, and capillaries. Inside that, it's going counterclockwise. Inside of that, it's going 90 degrees counterclockwise. And in that, it is not only is it photonic prana coming from love's co-creation, it's moving, in a scalar kind of way in your blood and your body, and it's taking this photonic light to every cell of your body. And as you're seeing mitosis happen, as you see your cell zip apart, the RNA goes there and creates the zipper and opens the cell, and you're going into mitosis. And you can see the DNA kind of being sprung out like mucus, as it unzips and turns into two cells. And you see your mitochondria totally, wigging out like little lightning bolts all around the cell. And that's because at that point, your mitochondria has been manifested into not only scalar energy electrically, but photonic light. And that's what animates our little bags of water. Got it? And why all of our relations, the feathered, the scaled, the skinned, the warm blooded, the cold blooded, they are all our relations, right? Because they experience their cell structure does the same thing. And why this synchronistic moment of the artificial intelligence, which is already here. Meaning you should go read Alan Turing's book about cybernetics. He wrote in the late 40s. The guy who invented the computer that broke the Enigma code, this guy was, he was like beyond belief. And he went to this, again, like, Oxford and all these special colleges of really, highfalutin folks. He was there because he was like no other. And yet, the scholastics who were his, bosses would give him a hard time. He wrote this book about cybernetics, and then there was A and B books, and the other one was about how humanity were basically biological robots, and the DNA hadn't been discovered yet, but he understood the coding of humans as cybernetic entities, and what we are, he was putting forth in a very sophisticated way what transhumanism was, right? And he saw the the challenge of artificial intelligence being controlled by the people who controlled him, because he saw himself as artificial intelligence, as a robot. You should go read his books, because they really open up this dark window that Dragon wants to look through of who and what we are. And that's why they killed him. They said he committed suicide, but, they freaking killed him. They got everything they wanted out of him. And then they didn't want him to go any further. And he couldn't help himself but be the luminescent genius he was, just like Tesla. And so they murdered him, just like they did to Tesla. But they kept Tesla around, until he was really old. And then they offed him. But they always knew that, oh, well, we're not going to kill him because we're going to need, because he, after alternating current, after wireless transmission current, after 0-point energy, he went into dimensional time travel. And, that's what the Montauk Project, he was part of that. That whole thing, that whole eastern end of Long Island, from, Brookhaven National Laboratories over to the Montauk facility. That is, all the national laboratories, Fermi Lab, Los Alamos, Sandias, Kirkland Air Force Base, and there are others too. And then that are, named, but then there are all these, like I said, dumps, deep underground military bases, and like the Blue Ridge Parkway, and the Blue Ridge Mountains I live on. And the thing is honeycombed with facilities, because DC is right there. They've been putting tunnels and wild, crazy stuff down there, since the Civil War, And because there are dimensional pathways here. I mean, the school here is right on one of the most massive ley lines on the East Coast. And there are dimensional vortexes all over the place. And that's why, when I had my mystic school up here, very few people could really focus, button down, and few, but not many, And the canary is a good example. He is affected by it more than he realizes. I mean, he does, think about the canary, he does realize his stuff. He just can't put it into perspective, Chanter debunked Montauk yesterday. Well, you can debunk anything. Like I said, it's undimensional. Yeah, I mean, I was there. I saw it. I walked around it. I was involved with it. So yeah, the bunkers can debunk anything. Like they've been debunking flying saucers. Since forever. Um, I constantly tell you guys, don't believe anything I say. It has to kind of ring clear for you, right? Has to be in your heart. You have to see it through the perspective of love's co-creation, right? That's why I do these guided meditations with you. That's why I put you in state. Right now, you are in state. I've been doing this now for a year, so I don't have to, you know, hold your hand, and I just keep doing this. I keep, you know, remind you that you should be breathing deep, blah blah blah, and you know, and you're having insights. Now you may not really get them till you wake up tomorrow after dreaming on it, or a week from now. You know, politics. Yep, exactly, because they use us to manifest their illusion reality. Exactamundo. And we get bought up, you know. The Romans gave their proles, you know, bread and circus. Us, we get fast food and big screen TVs. You can buy a 30-inch, 40-inch big screen plasma TV at Walmart's for 120 bucks. It used to, 10 years ago, it was, a grand, you you can go to any, Wendy's, McDonald's, and get like 20,000, like two cheeseburgers, French fries, soda, apple pie for $5, and a good deal of the American homeless poor, that's where they eat. That's where their kids eat. That's why you see these obese, where I live in the deep green, um, all the people in the hollows around me are obese, and yet they are dying of malnutrition. The babies have extended bellies. They're not fat. They have just like in Africa. So keep breathing. 20% in, 30% out. Focus on that. See it clearly. And in every day and every way, take that piece of the earth and make it stronger. And don't believe in anything. Just have faith in love's co-creation. And within the construct of that faith, you can do anything. You can experience anything. And you will know what's right for you and what's wrong for you. You don't have to have anybody tell you anything. You don't need to have a belief or a worldview, because it's all an illusion, right? The only thing that's true is love's co-creation. See that clearly. And you're watching the cells of your body, go through mitosis. And as the mitochondria is like flibbering around like little lightning bolts all around the cell as it splits, there is a light in there. When the RNA unzips the DNA, there is a dimensional space there, right? That is that point of 0 point energy. That is that point of multidimensional other universes, just like in the TV show J.J. Abrams, Fringe. That is the fringe right in there. I want you to look in that cell in your body. You will see who you are when you see that cell split. See it clearly. I keep saying to everybody, least 5 times a day. I mean, if I didn't meditate and say I'm good at it, I can go, here we go. I'm going to take you along for a toboggan ride. Ready? And one, you're in a deep, 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 deep state of relaxation. Your conscious mind, that squirrel in your Rolodex, is totally asleep. Your body is on autopilot, but you're awake. Your consciousness, your ascended free will is awake. This is what Buddha was talking about. Feel it, see it. You're standing in front of your imaginary mirror where you have REM sleep, where your eyes flitter back and forth beneath your eyelids. It's your imaginary mirror, and you're projecting that photonic light, and you're taking it into your subconscious, which is not a scary place. It is the library of your Akashic record. See it clearly. And now you're walking into your Akashic record. In front of you, you see all these big books on shelves. You see a gigantic fireplace. You could drive a train through. And there's the blue flame of the eternal flame. See it clearly. And in front of your fireplace, there is these beautiful leathered easy chairs. And in front of that is your reading table. Coming from above is the photonic light shining on your reading table, and there are no shadows. Behind your reading table is a very comfy reading chair that supports your coccyx and your back and your neck, and there's no pain or friction or stress. You just feel very comfortable there. And to your left is your librarian. See your librarian clearly. To the left of your librarian is your animal totem. See your animal totem clearly. To the left of your animal totem is your guardian angel. See your guardian angel clearly. Your guardian angel brings you the information, brings your Akashic record and places it on the table in front of you. You open it up, you put your right hand on the right page and your left hand on the left page, and you lean into your Akashic record, and you evacuate all the hate, all the anger, all the disappointment, all the self-loathing, all the envy, all the fear out of you. Anything that happened today that put you off, let it go. This is the exercise of letting everything go. And the only thing that's left is your faith in love's co-creation. See it clearly. And one, as you're looking into your Akashic record and you see you've, evacuated all your fear, eliminated all your anger, all your hate, all your bias, all your prejudice. And what is a prejudice? It's an opinion. That's all it is. It's an opinion. You like almond butter rather than peanut butter. You like strawberry jam. These are prejudices. They're opinions. They're not truths. They just are an opinion. So don't, bank everything on it. Don't stand on a worldview based on an opinion. Don't invest your whole life on something that's irrelevant. Whether you're going to be rich, what kind of house. It's got to be a fancy house. It's got to be really fancy. Got to be really fancy. Really the best. The most rich house. Got to be fancy. I got to make a lot of money. Got to be A-lister. No. I mean, look at all those A-listers. I was around folks like that. They were the most miserable people I ever met. People were a lot more fun. Where, poor people, when I lived in Brazil, I lived in this town, Buzios. I was brought there almost like, hijacked to build a nightclub. The lady who owned everyone, who is the madame, she had gone to Xenon's in New York, heard that I was the guy. So she, like I said, hijacked me to go there and build her this nightclub. And I went, and instead of feeling like a trapped animal, I had a good time. Because I did exactly what she wanted and made her really happy, but I did it the way I wanted. When I first started doing things, she was like, huh? And I basically said, hey, you want this thing? You want it to really be good? You want it to, I got it covered. Within a number of weeks and months, I had it covered. And she was one of the only people she could other than her lawyer, and even she didn't trust him, but I was like her grandson or her pet or, loyal dog, and all of the people who served, the chief of police, the Nazis, you name it, I fit in, because there was nobody else like me. And so I fit in, and I wasn't a threat. But the people I had the most fun with, I could have lived with the rich people on one side of the peninsula, but no, I lived on the backside because it was closer to where we were building the club, and it was a fishing village there, and I hung out there, and when we opened up, the average person who wasn't a rich person or didn't own a store or restaurant or some little something, they basically made probably $2 a day, if that, When I opened up, or less than that, $1.50, nothing. I mean, it just really, because, they could go and swim and get a lobster, they didn't starve. And when I opened up that club and we had a staff of 50, she was, so we'll have 10 people. I said, no, staff of 50. What? I said, listen, our clientele are rich, rich, rich people from Europe. They're coming here to have, a while, what are we calling it? We're not calling it, we're calling it Rick's. Yes, it has the thing that I did in that other nightclub. Yes, it has that. But the motif is Casablanca, Rick's. I'm Rick, I had a white coat, I had a tuck shirt and a tie, and I would wear, scraggly shorts that I'd been wearing for the last 6 months, and I was pretty much barefoot or had sandals on, right? And I was Rick, Mr. Rick. That's what they call me, Mr. Rick, and they'd say it in English. I mean, everybody spoke Portuguese or German or French, and there were some English-speaking folks, but most of the Europeans were more European than English. But anyway, I lived with the poor people. And when we had a staff, I paid everyone $5 an hour, which was like, and I said, listen, it's going to be these really rich people. We have to give them the best service imaginable. And by, we're going to make 20, 30 grand a night. So we spend, $400 on salaries for our staff that night. Them giving these people service like they've not even had in Europe. And these people do, because this is more money than they're ever going to see. And you will see that money will trickle down. I mean, you want to trickle down economy work. You don't give it to the richest people. Give it to the poorest people, because they give it to their children, their nephews, they buy stuff, right there with everybody else. And it was right. My doing that, everyone hated the madame because she basically owned them and could kill them like that. And she did. The chief of police would whack people without even thinking about it, right? But once he did this, everyone lightened up. And so for that year or so that I was there were no, the you know, the chief of police. He was a piece of work, a psychopath, and but he had a good nature to him, and he really liked me. He used to come into the club at 4 in the afternoon when he'd start drinking, and I taught him how to play Go. We had our Go table over there, and he was like Louis in Casablanca, but he was messed up, you know. And in this club, the club was mostly on the beach, and there was a big dance hall, bar, and the kitchen was in the back. And then over behind the bar was a staircase that went upstairs, and the staircase kind of went up to a certain place and it split. It went this way and it went into my section that you couldn't go into. The other section was where the brothel and the gambling were, right? And it was totally off book, and it was just like Casablanca, totally off book. But the chief police would show up at 4, and he would have an ounce of cocaine, and he would throw it on the bar, right? And he would then go, cocaine, like we broke the law. I mean, he would take it out of his pocket, throw it, cocaine, right? And then he'd walk around, and he'd, cha-ching, open up the cash register, and he would take all the money out of it. Now, this was a daily. Now, I can't do any drugs, a little boo in a cookie maybe. And, but I can't, my lungs are really, I can't really breathe smoke in of any type. And again, sometimes my lungs are pretty good. I mean, most times, even though they're fucked up right now, racked up, my doctor said, yeah, you got something going on there, but it's pretty interesting because this should be pneumonia, but it's not. It should be this, but it should be that, but it's not. It's just because you took all these antibiotics and something else happened. It's just kind of doing it. But, that thing you told me about photonic light, it's like not turning into something that's going to kill you. And yes, I'll give you a little something to expectorate it. And he did about a week ago, and it's almost all out. And that's so I can't really do anything because my energetics is so clear that I can't do that stuff. I can have a little alcohol, just a little bit. I have little bits of stuff, but when I went into Mr. Hedonism for 10 years, it freaking nearly I died in a plate of spaghetti. So I was living in the fishing village, and man, I couldn't buy a drink. I couldn't pay for a meal. I couldn't, my money wasn't good with the poor people. Now, if I went into the rich side where the other restaurants were and the stores, and they would maybe, I'm going to, give you 10% off or whatever. I would get my Rick's discount because, I was, Madam's boy. And, the doctor of the Nazi hospital, he would come to the club. I mean, that guy never went in public, but he would come, Thursdays and Mondays. He would come and we would play Go. That place was open. It was never closed. Every night it was open. I may not be there every night, but Mondays and Thursdays I'd be there, Saturday and Friday and Saturday not so much because it was I'd be there early on, when the dinner crowd would come in and I'd make my rounds and be Rick. But by the time it got super crazy, I just went upstairs. And I had another little sweet bungalow up the hill from the club. The club was right on the beach, but we kind of built this road coming down to because there was a cliff from the main road. And they built this road in like 3 weeks without any equipment, just hundreds of guys out there, cutting things down, clearing it off with shovels, and putting, stones, and they would, turn them into squares, and So I had my own little tree house, 100 yards up the hill. Uh, you kind of went upstairs through my office, and I had a little apartment up there. And that apartment went out to a patio that went into the hill, and then there was a path up from that patio all the way up to that house, that nice little tree house. And you couldn't get there any other way than going through my office and then my apartment and then onto my patio. And there was no other way to get up there but that one staircase. And this place was the darkest place and the lightest place at the same time. The guy who was our band leader was the reincarnation of Jimi Hendrix and Jesus Christ. And he lived in a cave at the end of our beach. And our beach, because it was a peninsula, and our beach was protected by this inlet that went over to the fishing village, we had pretty amazing tides that would come in and come out, just and go up and down 20, 30 feet, in 6, 7, 8 hours, right? So when the tides would come all the way in, this guy's cave, the water would cover it. But you went in the cave and it went up instead of down. And so he had an apartment in the cave, and the ceiling was covered in tarantulas, spiders, and bats, right? And he had a carpet, and he had Sears Louis XIV furniture that was covered with, clear plastic, and a four-poster bed, and the smell in there was pretty. And I would go in once in a while, but not really that often. And it depends on the way the wind would blow. And he was a chemist, so he was a lot of things. And I think he was like a genetic clone that the Nazis built in the hospital because no one knew where he came from. And he spoke fluent German, Portuguese. His English was, but he was red hair, freckles, green eyes. He had one green eye, one blue eye. He was a true trip. And he played the guitar like Jimi Hendrix. And the most interesting experience with this guy was I went in there, and he said, it was a nice day. We had lunch. We went through all the business we were going to do for that night. And we went in there, and it wasn't smelling bad. And he had made this. He said, "Here, try this punch." And I drank it, and it was super psychedelic. He just, woo. And more like, it was plant-based rather than, chemical-based. And it was like ayahuasca, but way more specific, very interesting. And we sat in these two like king chairs, red velvet, but covered in clear plastic, Sears chairs. And we went someplace else. And when we sat down in those chairs and we had the punch, the sun was coming in through the cave and the water was down the beach, and it wasn't smelling that bad. And when we kind of came out of that haze, the water was, we couldn't get out of the cave, and it was starting, the air was getting a little dank. And and there wasn't any light coming through the water. So it had to be, at least 8 o'clock. Well, the staff had it covered. I didn't have to be there. There were a lot of nights I just didn't go. This is one of those nights I wasn't there. But he was the band leader. He had to be there by 10 o'clock. I mean, the piano player would get there at 4 and start playing just so there'd be background music. And there was this flamenco guy and his girlfriend and his brother who played the flamenco guitar. And they would do their little thing before, the rock and roll and the wild, crazy party time showed up, which was about 11:30, 12 o'clock, and went till sunrise. That place went 4 to like 7 a.m. That was the right. And like I said, I'd be there for the early bird crowd. Anyway, so we're stuck in that cave, and we're realizing, okay. I said, so how do we get out of here? And he goes, well, we're just going to swim out. And I go, well, I know I walked in and out of the cave a lot of times, so it's maybe, I don't know, 100 yards of submerged space, but it's a big open space, not like, and I'm a good swimmer, so I said, okay. So we go down in the water, and now we do see light. We see flashes of blue light, right? And so I go, well, okay, let's go. So we go down and we swim, and we pop out, and the big waves are like pushing us against the raggedy rocks. And he goes, come over here. So I do, and that side of the beach kind of goes out. So where we popped out of the cave was still pretty deep, and the water was throwing us against the rocks. But we kind of swam and got over to the side, and there was the sandy bottom. You could walk. So, but the rocks were still there. So we had to the water was still kind of pushing us, and it was like I don't want to say a hurricane, but a really bad storm and a lot of lightning and kind of around us. Anyway, so he goes, we just stay in the water and we walk to the club, we'll walk till we get past the big rocks, and that'll be like 60% to the club. And by the time we kind of get almost there, we can see that nobody's there. It's like we could have stayed in there, but we're starting to smell in there. Anyway, I go, so let's go to the beach. And he goes, no. It's safer in the water. Right. And then a lightning bolt, up where the beach and the palm trees kind of, the forest meets and hits a tree. And so, we walk quicker, but we're still in the water and we're surrounded by lightning bolts. And we come out, we walk out of the water, we walk, into the club, and, the bartenders and staff are there. So there's nobody really there, and they're like eating lobster and drinking, and the flamenco guitar guy is playing, and they're basically having, a relaxed evening. And that's good, that's fine, and because they're still going to get paid. They may not get their tips, but they're going to still get paid, so they're not worried about it. And that was one of the most craziest little interludes of like psychedelic, amazing stuff. And it was like DMT, meaning it didn't, you take LSD or psilocybin or X, that shit's going to last for 12, 15, 20 hours. This stuff, probably 5 hours, if that. And it kind of had a quick up and a quick down. As soon as we got up there and started to come down, when we kind of fell asleep, at the peak, and then we slide down 20%, and we fell asleep in those chairs. And then, when we woke up, we were totally straight, right? And now, you're in a deep, 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 deep state of relaxation. You're there in Bucios. You're there at Rick's. You're there on the beach. You see the building. You see the African, Portuguese, Brazilian, North African aesthetic. See it clearly. See the staff in their white coats and their white shirts and their black bow ties and their black shorts. And they all have bare feet. See it clearly. See the thunderstorm. See the ocean. See the lightning bolts. And all of this is the doorway into that dark light space. Buzios would not have been there the Nazis hadn't gone there and started a hospital where they had, in the 40s, they had the technology to change your whole face, your eyes, everything. You were a different person. Right? They had that technology, and by the time I got there in, 87, they had it way further up. I mean, they had control of your mind, your psyche. They were already doing transhuman stuff. They were already making um, uh, those characters that are mixtures of species. Again, I don't have the teeth to pronounce it, but and it's just like Donald Trump. Everything was like right in front of you. So there was light and dark. This beautiful place, really loads of fun. People went there to let their hair down, and you really could do almost anything you wanted, right? There was somebody there to help you scratch that itch, and nothing was against the law. I mean, yes, you robbed somebody, you killed somebody, yes, the chief of police would grab you and shake you, down for a bribe, and then put you in one of his police cars and get you out of town and put you on an airplane and get you out of there, or he'd kill you. But once I was there, that killing thing dropped way down because the anxiety of it all went way down. And that's where we are right now. We're at this place. It's just like Boosie's, really dark. The worst of the worst. Crazy shit that you can't even imagine. It's right in front of you. And that's why, when you say, oh, they debunked, the Montauk Project, no, that shit happens. Okay. You go there now, you can't find any of that shit. Doesn't mean it wasn't there. Doesn't even mean that it's not there now. It's just not there in the dimension that you're standing in right now because you don't believe in it. You can't suspend that disbelief, which disbelief is the biggest, baddest prejudice there is because you can, eliminate anything from your conscience if you don't believe it. If your belief structure, I'm a Baptist, and that's all. Everyone's, Jesus coming and 112,000. I'm going to be one of them. Rest you going to hell. No, I'm sorry, that's not going to be. Now, at some point in your psychoses, it may occur, and it'll be like that scene out of Twilight Zone where this really scumbag, low-end, gangster criminal guy gets whacked, and when he comes, back to consciousness, he's wearing, $1,000 suit, and he's in a penthouse apartment, and all these beautiful blondes, and there's this guy there. He looks like Santa Claus, jovial, white beard, almost like me. I'm not as big as Santa Claus anymore, and the thing goes on, and he wins every crap game. He wins every this. He gets everything he ever thought he wanted. And after about a week of it, he goes, well, I'm getting a little bored. I always win. Can I lose? Oh, you can lose, sure. Yeah. But it's still contrived, controlled. And by the end of the Twilight Zone, he realized he's not in heaven because that's where he thought he was. He's in hell. And that is where we are at, gang. We are in this place that via our worldview, our belief structures, and our prejudices is what, gives us the reality that we think we're in. And if you want to suffer, go for all the stuff that's irrelevant, the big house, the money, the car, the whatever, right? Whatever you illusionary think you want. And that's why I had the tour de force of 10 years working for the corporate desperate lawyer. Spent a lot of money, I was not, I had the high end of it all, but it freaking killed me. Now I have to say that I enjoyed every slice of chocolate cake I had, but I wasn't that guy. Even though I had money and I was hanging out with this ilk, I was still going out, talking to people, making people's lives happier and better, right? I was just having the most, amazing hedonist life, 5-star hotels where they let my dogs walk with me anywhere I wanted, where they had the doggy masseuse, and I was wearing like homeless guy clothes, and oh, he's just eccentric millionaire, let him wear that. So, I wasn't quite a millionaire, but I was owning that motif, and I was, experiencing it, having a good time. But I also was being the anthropologist. I was wearing the grass skirt, but I was ignoring what I was supposed to be doing. I was doing a little bit of it, but I wasn't doing like I'm doing now, the whole Monty of doing what I'm supposed to be doing. So you want to be happy. You want to. I mean, why are we here? We are here to ascend our conscious free will to serve in every day and every way love's co-creation. And what makes me happy is when I make others happy. When I express everything I express in the we in me, not just me, but the we. All of us are in me, all my relations. And when we can all do that, that's when the bubble of the irrelevant illusion of materialism will pop, and we will all get to go home and hang with love's co-creation. And so will Lucifer, So will the devil, because they will be able to forgive themselves first and foremost. And that's what this little passion play is about, So, and two, you're in a deep, deep, deep state of relaxation. You're sitting at your reading table, your Akashic record is open, and now you have evacuated all your anger, your hate, frustration, and you've let go of everything. And to your left is your librarian who gives you the information. To the left of your librarian is your animal totem who, when you see things in the Akashic record, you may not understand them. And your animal totem there is to be your griot, to tell you a story which will give you perspective of what it is. See that clearly. And to the left of your animal totem is your guardian angel. And the only way you can truly let things go is when you're not scared. So I want you to take a good look at your guardian angel. And angels are, these folks who are all about, oh, angel this and angel that, and have these little cute little angels. No. Angels are the biggest, baddest killing machines in love's co-creation ever invented. Because basically the ones that are around survived the war that Lucifer started, which broke the hegemony of heaven. And that's why we got this illusionary material world, because it's made up of Lucifer's nightmares. That's why we got war and famine and disease and you name it, because it comes from Lucifer's nightmares. But they're neither bad nor good because they're there to give us a perspective that we can learn, that we can ascend, our conscious free will. So all of this is here for a reason, right? And I want you to look into your Akashic record, and in your Akashic, the books open, and there is all that hate, anger, and frustration, and everything. And I want you to close the book. Boom. Now everything is gone. All of your anxiety, all that frustration, it's all gone. See it clearly. And in every day and every way, you'll take the piece of the earth and make it stronger. through love's co-creation of Father Sky and Mother Earth, and our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. That was in the beginning, is now, ever shall be, world without end. And our Mother Earth, Gaia, our Chi. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and now in the hour of death. Amen. As was in the beginning, is now, ever shall be, world without end. And in every day and every way, we take the peace of the earth and make it stronger with love's co-creation. See it clearly. Now I want you to open back up your Akashic record to the blank page, and then this big screen comes up from both pages, and around it are the 28 little screens. And I want you to pursue through your Akashic record, in state, all the things you want to know about yourself, right? Past lives, what's going on, did Montauk really happen? All of the stuff I've been telling you stories about, I want you to see it in your own Akashic record so you can see the juxtaposition of the story of the griot and how it is giving you a metaphor to understand your own life. See it clearly. And whatever you don't understand, you have the big screen. They think it's 28 little screens all the way around, and they will give that is the scalar point of view, 28. In our illusionary world, we live on the XY coordinate of the Hertzian frequency. The scalar frequency is 16 dimensions. So I want you to see, I'm going to be quiet. I want you to go and look on that screen and see in the other 28 dimensions all the different angles of what you're seeing, where you came from, what you were, what you are, where you're going, why you do this, why this pushes that button, and why do you have to go this way. I want you to see it all. See it clearly. And this evening, you're going to navigate, and you're going to navigate through your Akashic record. We're not going to go through the open door over the bridge of your id into your superconscious mind, into the fun house, into your own sanctuary. No, I want you to see everything in your Akashic record. I told you a lot of stories in the last 1 hour and 58 minutes and 58 seconds. I want you to go to those places. Go to Rick's, go to Buzios, see the Nazis, see me playing Go with the Doctor. See me up at the mansion of the Madame, which was straight out of Star Wars. She was like Jabba the Hutt. When the lawyer picked me up at the airport and we drove the 200 miles from Rio to Buzios, and, and he was like in one of those Mercedes that you get hit with a, ICBM and it would still roll. And the driver was blind, and he was one of these, I wish I could pronounce the word. It's a word that kind of means like spider and snake together. It's like two species put together, right? And This guy was that. He's older than dirt, and he had dark black sunglasses, and he had the chauffeur hat, white shirt, and the black jacket, and then he had torn up shorts. So from the window of the car, he looks like a chauffeur. But when he got out, he's barefoot, shorts, tattered, and the clean white shirt, black tie, and black jacket, and the hat. But he couldn't even see where. But he was driving that car up and down and up and down and up and then it's like I thought we're gonna die. And the lawyer's just looking through paperwork and drinking his little cachaça, And when we went, drove into Buzios the first time, and we went up to Madame's, palace. It was just like out of Star. It just looked like, that's where Jabba the Hutt was, and she was so fat, she looked like Jabba the Hutt. She had this bowl of these kind of things swimming around that she would just pick up and just take it, right? And everybody was sitting around like courtesans, and we're scared that if they said the wrong thing, that she'd throw you down in the pit where the monster was, and she had a pit where the monster was. I think George Lucas went there. That's where he saw this, right? So, when I went in there, and you could tell there was like, a carbonite thing of Han Solo in it, and Leia was chained to this monkey who was chained to the throne of the Madame, and the lawyer brings me in, and I am introduced to the court as here he is. He is the guy who's going to build your nightclub. And she's looking, and before we got out of the car, he goes, 2 things. Never stare at the Madame. Keep your eyes diverted to the ground. Never look. Don't look her in the eye. Don't look at her at all. And for the love of God, say nothing about what you think about anything unless she asks you. And so we walked in there, and I'm looking at all this stuff, and I'm going, boy, this is straight out of Star Wars. And then I look over, and there's the Madame, and like she looks like Jabba the Hutt. He's like layers and layers and layers. She looks like the Michelin woman, and I couldn't even tell she was a woman. And I look her straight in the eye. My mouth is like that, and I go, "What the frack is that?" Meaning, and pointing at her. And the lawyer's like moving sideways, getting away from me just in case she decides to pick up the flamethrower next to her and incinerate me, or push the button so I go down the cage into where the monster is. And she looks at me, I look at her, and my mouth is still like, I'm not saying anything anymore, and just said, "What the fuck is that?" Pointing at her, and she starts to laugh. And she, has me come over, and she hugs me to her bosom, and she goes, starts talking to me in Portuguese. And at that time, I did not know Portuguese, but Princess Leia was down in the dancing girl costume. She was like translating for me. Anyway, she was saying, "Oh, my son is home," and she too was like, and anyway, I went over and sat down next to her, and somebody brought me a cachaça, and it's like rocket fuel on ice with sugar, real sugar on top of the glass, not salt, sugar, and a thing of sugar cane in there. And the sugar cane absorbs that cachaça, and you drink it, and it is like unbelievably tasty. And I drank it. You're not supposed to drink it as fast as I did. It was hot. I hadn't drank it. It was like lemonade. And then I stick the sugar cane in my mouth, and it was like, whoa. And I'm still a slim guy. I was like 30-something when this happened, so I probably weighed, what I probably what I am now, about 20 to 30, and I kind of look this, but in better shape, not broken up like I am now. And I could like swing from the trees and run around and do, I was in good shape. And within 5 minutes, I was, what did they spike this thing with? But it was just a cachaça, I never drank a cachaça like that. And everyone started laughing at me, and I was laughing at me too, you know. And so that's what life's about. I could have ended up down in the cage with a monster or incinerated, because she actually had a friggin' flamethrower there, right? And but she pressed me to her bosom and called me her son and sat me down at the cherished thing, and I got a drink, right? And so I kind of just conked out. Music was playing, people were, entertaining, and I woke up and I was in one of her bedrooms, not with her, but one of her concubines was there cuddling up to me, and all my clothes were gone, and this really amazing, beautiful girl was there, and she was cuddling me, and not doing anything really too sexual, but just cuddling. And she could only speak Portuguese, and so I kind of, kissed her on the cheek, and I got up, and she we went and had a shower, and she lathered me all up, and that was, got pretty well cleaned there. And then, we went out on the balcony, and she, kind of offered me another cachaça, and I said, okay, I'm not going to drink this fast. And, then she lit up the pipe, and I took a few puffs of that and said, okay. But I was like very, right. And again, she kind of picked me, not picked me up, but walked me back to the bed to expect, and I said, like this, you get on the bed. So she got, and I massaged her because, I'm a good masseuse, healer. Well, I did a lot of things to her and energetically balanced her. And she started to cry. It released a tremendous amount of her trauma. And she fell asleep. And I got in bed and kind of curled up next to her and pulled the sheets over us. And we woke up to the sun, and the sun came right in there. And she just looked at me like she was reborn, right? And so I, that morning I go down. There's, we go down together, but she, she walks me down there, and then she doesn't go into the, where the madame and the lawyer are, and the chief of police and a few other people having breakfast, and and the lawyer said, "So you had a good night?" I said, "Oh yeah, I slept pretty good." And did you like what's her name? I said, "Very sweet, very nice. She's yours." I said, "Well, I'm not big into slavery," and they kind of laugh, and then the woman does speak English. The chief of police does speak English, and the other two, one of the guys there represents the Nazis. He's one of the. He said, "This is Doctor So and So from the hospital." Oh, you got? Oh, yeah, special hospital. Okay. Anyway, so we talk about. These are all the people who are going to be involved, either through the investment or whatever, of building the thing, and and I said, I'm going to have to go look at the site before I can really think of anything what I want it to be. And she goes, I want it to be like Xenons. I said, well, that's New York City. It kind of has to fit wherever we put this. It's going to be on the beach. It's going to be, okay. Anyway, I am, my throat is going. I've talked now for 2 hours. So what I want you guys to do while I rest my throat, you're in state or in your Akashic record, I want you to see all the things I talked about. want you to see all the things you are. When I come back in the next 3 minutes, I want you to tell me what you've seen. And two, you're in a deep, deep, deep state of relaxation. Your conscious mind is totally focused on your breath. And you are in state and you're in your Akashic record, your library of your soul's experiences. You're looking at your Akashic record. You've been watching the big screen and the 28 little screens, giving a perspective, and your librarian has been bringing you their information, and your animal totem has been telling you stories, and you feel totally protected by your guardian angel. I want you to look at them each. See your librarian. Totally, what does your librarian look like? How does it look? How do you feel? What kind of energy you're picking up from your librarian? See it now. And turn to the left and see your animal totem. Again, what does it look like? What is it? What is the animal? What is the totem? What has it told you? How do you feel about it? What kind of energy do you get off it? And again, turn to the left, see your archangel has your back. That's always protecting you. See it clearly. And this guide, this one you've seen before. It has pulled your fat out of the fire a number of times. And you didn't understand it, didn't see it. It's not until now that you see it. I want you to see it. And now you get up from your reading chair and you walk over to the shortcut from your Akashic record to your lodge. Well, that's in our house in your sanctuary, our house, which is the Oracle of Delphi. But it's in the shape and fashion that I see it as Frank Lloyd Wright's Falling Water in Pennsylvania, but a gigantic one. The front doors are like 40 feet high, and over the top in Latin, it says, "Know thyself," right? And you go in that door in the Great Hall, and on the right side of the 9 doors, on the left side are different coat rooms. One of them goes to the old crone. You go into the common room. You go to the right. There's the big dining hall straight out of Hogwarts. You go straight ahead. You go into the Hedgerow Longhouse, right? And to the left is the doorways into all of your lodge, private lodge, your own lodge. And because it's your lodge, it's a shortcut from your library into your lodge. So we're all walking through that shortcut into the lodge, right? And we sit down into the sitting room. And who is there but the tea lady from Dublin and the old crone, both sitting there, right? And the old crone and the tea lady are preparing tea in the 3 pots. And they have ambrosia in a big bowl to scoop out to give us all beautiful ambrosia. And I want you all to see what that is like. Those 5 of you guys, so speak up, You're there now, it's like live. It's not, you're experiencing this, And a lot of people often when they have, as my teachers, are you having a vision? They don't know whether it's their imagination or what. Well, it doesn't matter. Whatever comes to your mind is the truth when it comes through your heart or love's co-creation. So, what do you got to say, gang? See it clearly. we all have to be able to speak our truth, you know. And there is no judgment here in Dreamy Dreamland with your Sensei Al Bob. You know, this is one of the safer places you can be. See it clearly. So, has anyone got a good take on what their guides look like? Yep. Well, as you know, Dragon, you can. If you're the only one talking, it's okay. It's like tonight is your night to be the oracle. So open up your mind. Let go everything, and be that oracle. You know. And I know you're in a way more comfortable with drawing your truth. Hey, Christopher. Well, that's a very Celtic kind of image. Back in the day, those guys, there was a clan that did that. And if you go to my playlist, there's a guy from Australia who has a YouTube channel called Crow House, I think. And he's quite interesting. And his image of himself is exactly what you see, Christopher. A guy covered in green mud, and he's got plants growing out of it, all kinds of things. And that's a very Celtic image, There are a number of, within the hedgerow dynamic, there were a number of bards who looked that way. Yep, well, there you go. She was straight out of the hedgerow herself. I mean, her whole farm was like one gigantic hedgerow. I mean, it was on top of a mountain. You had to go. There weren't too many big forests in Ireland. The Romans cut them all down. And the English kept cutting them down. And so, but to get to her place, you had to come off the main road between Skibbereen and Galway. And it was this road that kind of shot up, and it was like one lane, and a gigantic cliff. It was like you're going into outer space. And then you got top of the mountain. It's this big valley, miles, a good 10 miles long, a good 3 miles wide. And at the one end, there was a forest that you there was a, cut road, went through it. And it was darker than dark. And it was like the hedgerow, but, you just had to shoot through that tunnel almost of trees. And you came out into her farm, which was 3 big meadows. Come on, get that last piece out. So you guys drinking the 3 pots of tea, and what are you experiencing? And what does that ambrosia taste like, and what's it doing to you? Yeah. Ambrosia is a very interesting dessert because I've been in groups of people who make the real thing, and when people eat it, it's kind of like, you know, drinking all 3 pots of the Crohn's tea. It's kind of like taking a psychotropic drug, and it's really yummy, you know. And I remember being at so my girlfriend, who was a doctor, in our little town of Glendore. And so she was like, you were like the parents, and the rest of the fishermen and people were like the adolescent. I mean, they were older than we were, but they were acted like the adolescent teenagers. And we would have a potluck dinner because I was Mr. Potluck Dinner, and when we hooked up, and I was living there, and I said, we should have our friends over. I met them all now, and you're the, they didn't have a Catholic church. They were a priest, and that's what they made me. They made me their priest. We'd come and tell me all their problems, and I, kind of work them out, and kind of straightened out their kids, and we did ceremony, because when I was living with her there, both Archie and the crone would come visit us at different times, sometimes together. But because she kind of lived up that hill, and she had back ways to come into that little town. And even because the road, if you took the road, it was like 20, 30 miles. And I once walked down this path with her, and we got into Glendore like in 5 minutes. It was like, how did we do that? And she, even though my girlfriend was the doctor, the crone was, her teacher of being a doctor. And the crone was much better at people dying and people giving birth. That was her thing, birth and death. Whereas my girlfriend took care of everything else, broken arms, cuts, you know, stab wounds, gunshots, stuff like that, things like that, getting the flu, the croup, the this, the that, because she could hand out that kind of stuff. And she did a good deal of herbology. And I, by that time, I had already had my little practice in New York. So I was helping her out on that end of the thing. We were really a good team. I mean, there was, I was telling John the other day, if you could die and go to heaven, would you go back to your love of your second wife? And and he's fixated on that one. Now, I've had a lot of great women in my life, and I said no. I would go with this other woman, because that other woman, and as he was trying to talk me in, no, you got to go with your second. I said no, and he didn't quite understand. And if you go to my blogspot, xratted.blogspot, and read the story about how my wife died and came back to life, and the kind of life we had and what we did, and what happened afterwards, you would realize that I really didn't want to talk about it the way he does. It's some kind of comic book, you know, he can't understand how I feel about it. Now, but there are I'd say 5 to 10 women in my life that I could or should have married, right? But I'd be a totally different guy. I wouldn't be here being your sensei all Bob, And if I had married Jane, I would, be a record producer, have a lot of money, have a lot of kids, have a house here, there, and everywhere, and live that kind of Southampton life, right? And if I had met, met my Switzerland girlfriend, I'd be living in Switzerland as a banker, And if I had married Scar, I'd be, a pirate's, second mate. Anyway, and that's what life is about. I mean, you can't second guess or wish you did this. I mean, I have no regrets about anything. Everyone I've been with, done things with, all the stuff I've done, they were all just what I was supposed to be doing. Even the 10 years of working with the desperate lawyers and living a total hedonistic life, I learned a lot. Again, the 3 laws, I didn't hurt anybody. It's very interesting. The universe turned the light out and changed the image. We're now not illuminated by incandescent light. This is not even photonic light. This is astral light. This is the energy of all of you there on the live chat. This is what you are all reflecting off of me. That's interesting. So I keep doing the griot thing for you guys, right? You're not talking, so I'm talking. And I am saying things that are shamanically. You know what the term purchase? Like if I was a fireman, when we're trying to get into a car, we had to get somebody out, or a house, and the door was locked or jammed. You'd have to get something in that little space between the door and jam it open and pop it open, right? And these stories I'm telling you are just that. They're like the purchase into your consciousness, to open that door, to just squeak it open so you can start expressing yourself. Now you are going through a shamanic experience, right? And you are alchemically changing. And this is, and you are experiencing it pretty. Oh, the other thing is my battery's about to die, so I gotta quit. Okay, so enjoy.